सहना भवतु सहनो भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। हरिः ॐ। असतो मा सद्गमय तमसो मा ज्योतिर्गमय मृत्युर्मा अमृतं गमय आविराविर्मयेधि। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। हरिः ॐ। May we be protected, may we be nourished, may we strive with energy and vigor, may our study be enlightening and not give rise to hostility. Om, peace, peace, peace. Lead us to truth and not to untruth. Lead us to enlightenment and not ignorance. Lead us to immortality and not death. Let the self-manifesting Atman grow in me. Om, peace, peace, peace. Tulsidas ji said, Binu satsanga vivek na hoi, Ram kripa vinu sulabh na soi. Vivek means power of discrimination. Truth, untruth, falsity is mixed up in this world. Satyanrite mithuni kritva. So everything is mixed up here. It's very difficult to see what is real, what is not real, what is permanent, what is impermanent. So power of discrimination comes when we get satsanga. You are saying something? Oh. So power of discrimination comes when we have satsanga. And satsanga is available when God graces us. So it is grace of God that we have Swami Tyagananda ji today here with us. We are very thankful to him. And what happens with this satsanga? We grow insight. We can see things in a better way. We can avoid what is not true. We can avoid what is impermanent. Generally, our tendency is to grab impermanent. So, we are very fortunate that we have Swami Tyagananda ji with us. So, I'll read from the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna first, and then Maharaj will speak, or you can ask questions. Saturday, December 22nd, 1883. A devotee. Sir, how does one obtain love for God? Master, go forward. The king dwells beyond the 7 gates. You can see him only after passing through all the gates. At the time of the installation of Annapurna at Chanak, I said to Dwarika Babu, large fish live in the deep water of a big lake. Throw some spiced bait into the water, then the fish will come. Attracted by its smell, now and then they will make the water splash. Devotion and ecstatic love are like the spiced bait. God sports in the world as man. He incarnates himself as man. As in the case of Krishna, Rama, and Chaitanya. Once I said to Keshav, the greatest manifestation of God is in man. There are small holes in the bulk of a field where crabs and fish accumulate in the rainy season. If you want to find them, you must seek them in the holes. If you seek God, you must seek Him in the incarnations. The Divine Mother of the universe manifests herself through this 3.5 cubit man. There is a song that says, O Mother, what a machine is this that thou hast made? What pranks thou playest with this joy, with this toy, 3.5 cubits high. One needs spiritual practice in order to know God and recognize divine incarnations. Big fish live in the large lake, but to see them, one must throw spiced bait in the water. There is butter in milk, but one must churn the milk to get it. There is oil in mustard seed, but one must press the seed to extract the oil. Devotee, has God form, or is He formless? Master, wait. First of all, you must go to Calcutta. Then only will you know where the Maidan, the big field, the Asiatic Society, and the Bengal Bank are located. If you want to go to the Brahmin quarters of Khardah, you must first of all go to Khardah. Why should it not be possible to practice the discipline of the formless God? But it is very difficult to follow that path. One cannot follow it without renouncing woman and gold. There must be complete renunciation, both inner and outer. You cannot succeed in this path if you have the slightest trace of worldliness. It is easy to worship God with form, but it is not as easy as all that. One should not discuss the discipline of the impersonal God or the path of knowledge with a bhakta. Through great effort, perhaps he is just cultivating a little devotion. You will enjoy it if you explain away everything as a mere dream. Kabir was a worshipper of the impersonal God. He did not believe in Shiva, Kali, or Krishna. He used to make fun of them and say that Kali lived on the offerings of rice and banana, and that Krishna danced like a monkey. When the gopis clapped their hands, one who worships God without form perhaps sees at first the deity with 10 arms, then the deity with 4 arms, then the baby Krishna with 2 arms. At last he sees the individual light and merges in it. It is said that sages like Dattatreya and Jadabharata did not return to the relative plane after having the vision of Brahman. According to some people, Shukadeva tasted only a drop of that ocean of Brahman consciousness. He saw and heard the rumbling of the waves of the ocean, but he did not dive into it. A brahmachari once said to me, one who goes beyond Kedar cannot keep his body alive. Likewise, a man cannot preserve his body after attaining Brahmajnana. The body drops off in 21 days. There was an infinite field beyond a high wall, Four friends tried to find out what was beyond the wall. Three of them, one after the other, climbed the wall, saw the field, burst into loud laughter, and dropped to the other side. These three could not give any information about the field. Only the fourth man came back and told people about it. He's like those who retain their bodies even after attaining Brahmajnana in order to teach others. Divine incarnations belong to this class. Parvati was born as the daughter of King Himalaya. After her birth, she revealed to the king her various divine forms. The father said, "Well, daughter, you have shown me all these forms. That is nice, but you have another aspect, which is Brahman. Please show me that." "Father," replied Parvati, "if you seek the knowledge of Brahman, then renounce the world and live in the company of holy men." But King Himalaya insisted. Thereupon Parvati revealed her Brahman form, and immediately the king fell down unconscious. All that I have just said belongs to the realm of reasoning. Brahman alone is real, and the world illusory. That is reasoning, and everything but Brahman is like a dream. But this is an extremely difficult path. To one who follows it, even the divine play in the world comes like a dream and appears unreal. His eye also vanishes. The followers of this path do not accept the divine incarnation. It is a very difficult path. The lovers of God should not hear much of such reasoning. That is why God incarnates himself as man and teaches people the path of devotion. He exhorts people to cultivate self-surrender to God. Following the path of devotion, one realizes everything through his grace, both knowledge and supreme wisdom. So we'll stop here as it goes on.
First of all, I must say how lucky I feel to be in this hall. This was the same hall that has been there for a long time, right? And so I've read in the reminiscences of the earlier Swamis here, especially Swami Aseshananji Maharaj, many of the incidents connected when he was speaking here. So I feel very privileged to be able to speak here in this hall where many great revered monks of our order have shared their thoughts. I don't intend to give a big talk. Maybe I'll just make a few remarks, and then if you have any thoughts to share or questions, and we can pass the next few minutes that way. I was thinking this morning that one of the ways we can think as students of Vedanta, that we need to have become good investors in some way. Now, the disclaimer, I have zero understanding about how financial dealings work. The only thing I know about a good investment and a bad investment is that a good investment would be that in which whatever it is that we put in and what we get back. So what we get back, if it's more than what we put in, it's a good investment. If we put in more and then get less, it's a bad investment. That's about as much I know about investment. But I think that basic principle can be very helpful for spiritual seekers, because no matter what we do in life, we are making investment. And here it's not investment in terms of the dollars that we put in, but investment of our time, investment of our energy. Those of you who have been connected with the Vedanta centers for many, many years, and whatever amount of period you have been connected with, you know, and we all know, that we are investing some time of our life, some energy that we have into something, into Vedanta. And we keep on making that investment so long as we discover that what we get back is more than what we put in. And that is what keeps us going. So when we think about life, both our so-called secular life, connected with this world and our duties and responsibilities in it, and about a life beyond this world that we see. So essentially, there are these two avenues open to us, and we generally think that all of our engagement with the world and our duties and responsibilities, clearly carrying out all of that, needs some time, needs some energy. And then here's this other basket. We say, that's my spiritual life, which is not limited to this material world, but something beyond. Now, there's some time and energy required to do that, whether you are doing it in terms of your daily meditation, your prayer, your studies, the selfless service or volunteer work that many of you do. That also requires time and energy. Now, because we have these two baskets, and the time and energy that all of us have are a limited entity. And so then, here is this question, whether we think about it consciously or not: how much of my time, how much of my energy should I put in here, and how much I should put it in there? And that's what often sets up this kind of a dilemma, especially for many of us when we turn to spiritual life for the first time. Am I spending too much time doing this or too little? Should I do this more or should I do this less? Sometimes it's disheartening when people begin meditation if one of the first questions is, what is the minimum I have to do? And I sometimes say, well, the minimum you have to do is nothing. No one is forcing us to do any meditation or japa. If we do it, it's because we choose to do it. And we choose to do it because we believe that the time and energy I invest in doing this, I'm going to get a better return. And so here are these two options. Again, a class on investment, if you like, with someone who doesn't know anything about it. So if you want to open a new account somewhere, and you go to the bank and say, what are the options? What kind of, if I want to invest, how can I do it? And suppose they say, here are these two options. Here is this one account. If you open it here, there's a very attractive return, there's a very high interest rate, and it all looks very attractive. The only downside to that is that this account could get wiped off anytime. But we assure you it's not going to happen soon. It's just like investing in a stock market. We all understand there is a risk, we understand that, God forbid, the whole thing can tumble down and I can lose all my money. But that doesn't stop us from investing because we feel, well, I can take that risk. So if one account is very attractive returns, kind of an oral guarantee that things have been stable, it's not going to go away. But the real risk is at any time it can just disappear. And the other option is another place you could open the account where they say there is a high interest return, but we can't tell you in advance how much it is. We just assure you it's big. But apparently, there are no immediate benefits you see to that. The only benefit is they say this account is secure. It's there. So then if we have these kind of two options, where will we choose to invest? One side is a very attractive return, but not full guarantee about the stability of that investment. On the other side, there is a full guarantee about the stability, but and it's a mystery. How much return I have, I don't know. You just have to believe when they say it's going to be a big return. Now, something like that, you can relate these two options to our investment in the world. The time and energy we invest into the world, we are often able to see very immediate results. You spend some time and some money and some energy, go buy a nice chocolate ice cream on a warm day like this. You don't have to wait until you die to get the joy. You get it immediately. And so it's very instant, it's very real, it's something that seems within our reach. On the other hand, here is this, do japa and do meditation. Well, how long do I have to do it? Well, just keep on doing it until you become enlightened. When will I become enlightened? Well, you will become enlightened one day, but we don't know. We can't say when. And so that's the dilemma many of us have. One thing I said about the stability and the instability of it. The first account they said was, generally it's good, but it can get wiped off any moment. Isn't that true about our life? All of us would, of course, I would imagine, would like to live as long as it is possible, have healthy lives, and that's what any normal human being would want. But we recognize that in spite of that strong hope and strong wish, our life really can be cut short without any notice. I mean, I remember a few years ago when I was discussing with spending time with some of my brother monks, and one of the topics that came up for discussion, and you might see how sometimes some bizarre discussions can occur even among monastics, and we were thinking about which would be a better way to die. Should we have a kind of a slow death with the body and mind deteriorating gradually, and so you have time, you know that the body declining and you're kind of inching your way towards death? Or, and of course, with that means that there's this attending pain and suffering connected with the declining physical and mental health. On the other side is, you're in a very healthy condition, and then zoop, you just go, just die immediately. Could be instantaneous death, could be anything, could be a nuclear war. It could be anything. So given a choice, how would we like to die? I'm sure I think very few people even want to think about it this way. Death is not a pleasant subject, I'm aware of it. But it's not a subject that spiritual seekers should to run away from. Because among all the uncertainties of life, if there is one thing that is certain, is that one day we will die. Since we plan for so many things in life that may or may not happen, it's not wrong to ask whether, do I have any plan for my death, which I know will definitely happen. I don't know when, but it will. Do I have any plan for it? Now, dying in this slow sort of way, the advantage is, yes, there is going to be pain, there is going to be physical suffering, but at least you have some amount of time to prepare for the inevitable. On the other side is, you don't have any pain and suffering because you just die instantly without knowing. So again, there was obviously no conclusion to that. Everyone had their own different ways of thinking about it. But we have to recognize that every one of us will die one day in this way or the other. Sometimes they say, always be kind and loving to your children because they are going to choose the nursing home you're going to be in. One day it will happen. None of us wants that it should happen quickly, but it will. When I was in high school in the 8th grade, growing up in India, we had this one lesson in a Hindi book, a selection, and translated, the title of that essay was Death and Art, an Opportunity. And that was quite a big stuff for high school kids to study. And it made a deep impression on me and many of my friends as well. And one of the statements in that essay was, do you not think that, maybe I'll just tell you what the original Hindi is, because I still remember the exact words and then I'll translate it. What that essay said was, क्या आपको नहीं लगता है कि वह आदमी अधिक बुद्धिमान है जो आसमान से तारे तोड़ने का प्रोग्राम बनाने के बजाय पेड़ से आम तोड़ने का प्रोग्राम बनाए? So the idea was that, don't you think that person is more intelligent who, rather than making a plan about how to pluck stars from the heavens, has a plan about how to pluck mangoes from a tree? That's something that is necessary, something for our survival, something that is important, and something that is within our reach. And so that is something that, so I think it was Aristotle who said that great philosophers are continually engaged in the practice of dying. One day a group of college students went to meet Swami Vivekananda, and he asked them a question. They first asked him a lot of questions, and he answered them. And then he said, I have a question for you. And he said, what is the most wonderful thing in the world? And of course, it's such a broad question. It could be any number of answers are possible. And the students were intelligent enough to just keep quiet and not try to even answer it. And then Swamiji himself answered that. And Swamiji said, we will die one day. Now, what's so wonderful about that? And the same question came up in Swamiji's, you will find in his complete works, his conversations with the disciple, and most of those conversations are with his disciple named Sharat Chandra Chakravarti. So this topic of death came up at that time as well. And Swamiji said, think of death always. Then the disciple says, Swamiji, I mean, what kind of advice is that? He said, wouldn't that make my mind morose? Wouldn't it make me miserable? All the joy of my life would be sucked away if I'm just thinking about death? And Swamiji said, yes, it will. But Swamiji said, hold on to that thought. It's not as if ideas about death or thought about death never comes to our mind. It does. We are just coming out of a pandemic. We know millions of people have lost their lives because of COVID. We know what death is. There are wars going on in the Middle East, in Gaza, in Ukraine, and many other parts of the world. We know from among our family, of our friends, our neighbors, that there have been deaths. So especially when deaths occur among people who are close to us, who are known to us, the mind does become a little silent. We do think about death. It's not that we don't, but there is some kind of a kind of an escape mechanism, if you like, or a way of protecting oneself, or we just have some justification then when we say, oh, life must go on, we can't be brooding over it all the time, and then we engage ourselves with something else. We don't allow the thought, the possibility of death to sink in. And I must make one thing clear here. There is a very obsessive, neurotic way of thinking about death, which is bad, which is very unhealthy. That's not what Swamiji is recommending here. But there is a very healthy, positive, constructive way of thinking of death. And I think that is something every spiritual seeker has to encounter. If we're looking for an eternal life, we have to understand we cannot run away from the idea of death. The more we try to run away from that, the more it will chase us. You know about that incident from Swamiji's life, how when during his wandering days he was in Benares, he was walking through this very narrow lane, he was being chased by these a group of monkeys, and then Swamiji as a young monk, he started running. The more he ran, the more they chased them, until he says, an elderly monk coming from the opposite side, he said, stop, face the brute. And Swamiji said, he stopped, he turned and looked at those monkeys, looked them in their eye, they saw, and then they retreated. And then years later, Swamiji mentioned this incident in a talk he gave in New York, and he said, similarly, there are many things in our own lives we try to run away from. We don't want to think about them. We think we can just kind of push them under the carpet, so to speak. But no, it never occurs that way. The more we try to avoid them, the more it bothers us. The more we try to run away, the more it chases us. At some point, we should be strong enough to pause and look straight in the eye. So, for spiritual seekers, if we're looking for immortality, that eternal life, at some point we have to stop, look back straight into the eye about the possibility and the reality really of our own death. And that's what Swamiji meant. He said, yes, for the first few days, maybe weeks, maybe months, if I hold on in a constructive way, positive way to that idea of death, my mind may become sad a little bit. I might get a little depressed. But if I hold on to it, slowly that fog will lift. And then Swamiji says, the strength of the lion will enter into you. I don't know if you remember, now more than probably 25 years ago, there was a movie called Hurricane. If you remember that? So Hurricane was actually, it was a real life story of a middleweight boxing champion. His name was Carter, but he had got this Hurricane as a what do you say, pen name? Nickname, because he was very fast and really came as a force of a hurricane. And so he was known in the circle as Hurricane Carter. And so this is a real life story. It occurred, so the movie came about 25 years ago. And I think Denzel Washington did that role. And so the story is simple, that there was a murder in some nightclub somewhere in the Midwest, I think, or maybe in the Chicago area. I don't remember the name of the city. And all that the information they had was 2 black men were seen running. And so this Hurricane Carter, he was driving by from that area. He had stopped near the gas station, and suddenly he was surrounded by these cars of cops. And then they said, "You have to come, you are a suspect." And he said, "Why?" And then they said, "Well, we saw that two blacks were running from that scene." And he just said, "Well, like any black would do for your purpose." And so essentially, they arrest him, they take him, and and just kind of manufacture evidence, and he is completely innocent, but he's put behind bars for, I think, maybe something around 20 or 25 years behind prison for murder. And so later on he was released um, after about 20 years. Um, and then he wrote this memoir in which this, and then based on that, his memoir, this movie came. Now, I'm mentioning all this because one of the things he did, so when they arrested him, he was wearing a suit and tie. And when they took him to the prison, they insisted that he change into the uniform of the inmates. And he refused. He said, "I'm not a criminal. I'm not going to change into that." And to punish him, to kind of break him down, to force him to change, they put him in a solitary confinement for days and weeks and months. He never gave in. He just held on. The clothes he was wearing had become dusty, but he said, "You're never going to change it to the prisoner's apparel." And then, and kind of tell you just the end part of it. So nearly 20 years passed by, and there was no way for him to get out. All his appeals were rejected. Then some group of young men, new law graduates in Canada, they were looking at some of these kind of cold cases, which had created news at the time. And this case had created news because he was a middleweight world champion who was arrested. And so they read the details of that case and felt, no, something is fishy about this. So they unearthed the whole thing and kind of found a way to relitigate the case. And they showed that he was innocent, that there was a bias involved, that the prosecutor had something personal against him, and so on. So that's the story. And the interesting thing about that, and there's kind of a footnote to that, is that all that the administration can do in cases like this is to just say, "Sorry, we made a mistake." There was no compensation given. He had lost 20 years of his life. Anyway, so then he wrote this memoir. It's a very inspiring account. And in that he said, well, this is what was going to happen and so on. But the main point, why I'm giving all this story is because, so he said the worst that the prison authorities could do to him was put him in a solitary confinement, the worst thing. And he said, once he said, "Okay, I'm fine with that," he said, "I felt liberated, I felt free, because there was nothing worse they could do, and I had accepted that worst." And that kind of caught my attention. He was in prison for 20 years, but he saw what is the worst that they can do and was able to face it. And that's all that I really want to draw your attention to. So if we say, in our present state, normally we think, oh, death is a terrible thing, that it's like, sometimes we hear people saying, oh, somebody passing, it's a very untimely death. Which is a timely death? I mean, every death is untimely. It's a useless phrase, untimely death. I mean, no one knows what time or when we are going to die. But if we can look at the possibility of our death in the eye without running away from it, it will stop frightening us. We will become, even before we have become spiritually enlightened, we'll already experience a measure of freedom. Because oftentimes in a very unconscious sort of way, the possibility of death, even though we are not always thinking about it, weighs on us. In Sanskrit, in the Yoga Sutra, it's called Abhinivesha. Abhinivesha is this kind of instinctive fear of death. But if we can kind of look it into the eye, and it will not bother us. So that is one thing I think as spiritual seekers, especially as Vedanta students, we see Atman is immortal. The Atman never dies. And which is wonderful, but that doesn't take away the fear of death for me, because I still think, well, what about this body? Yes, I may be the Atman, and that's wonderful, but right now I want to preserve this body and mind as much as I can. And therefore, it's good to encounter one's own death, so to speak. There's one story I will share with you, and then I'll stop. And that story is connected with death. And this story was told to me by one of our very elderly monks. He was in the center where I joined the order in the 70s. And so he told me this story. And I love this story, and it's been very inspiring in many ways. So this story is about a young medical graduate. He had just finished his training and finished his residency, and then decided to begin practicing on his own. Now, as it happened, that the very first patient he treated unfortunately died. Not a very auspicious way to begin one's career. He said, okay, these things happen, bad luck, and he tried a second patient, third. First 4 patients, all of them died. Now, these things kind of spread very quickly. It became known in the circle, don't go to this doctor. If you want to live, don't go to him. Obviously, he wasn't getting any patients, and he was furious. He's like, I've invested so much of my time and energy into this. I want to be a doctor with good intentions. I want to serve people, and now my career is doomed. And he wanted to know why. Why are my patients dying? And so he was a religious person. I knew enough that we know there is this personality associated with death who comes to claim the souls of the dead. Is called Yama. You might have heard about it, especially in the Katha Upanishad. So this young doctor, because he was religious, he knew that this Yama, the god of death, so to speak, is responsible for taking, and he wanted to know why. Why is this Yama coming and taking away my patients? But then how do you get in touch with Yama? The only way to get in touch with any of the deities is to repeat their mantra. Because that's why we hope that if I repeat the mantra, my particular chosen deity will appear to me in some form. So he said, I better find out what Yama's mantra is and begin chanting that, and Yama will come. So anyway, he managed to find Yama's mantra, and we started repeating that mantra with great earnestness. That was pretty unusual. Very few people, if any, have Yama as their Ishta, as a chosen. Yama himself was surprised. Because everywhere he went, people used to be terrified. And he found, finally, I have found one devotee who loves me. So Yama was so pleased. He appeared before this young doctor and said, I'm so pleased with you. You are a wonderful person. Ask what you want. And then this young doctor says, don't think I'm your devotee or anything like that. I just did this because I want to ask you an explanation. Why is it that you take away all my patients? And then Yama said, that's your mistake. You are a fool. Why do you accept those cases which will not survive? Don't accept such cases. And then the doctor said, how am I to know in advance? Whichever case I take, I do it with good faith that I will try to heal that person. How can I know in advance who will live or who will not live? Then Yama said, but because I'm pleased with your devotion, I give you this special power that next time you go to see any patient, I will be present also there. I will be invisible. Only you can see me. No one else will be able to see me. Now, if you see that I am standing near the feet of that patient, you can be absolutely certain that fellow is not going to survive. Avoid taking that case. Pass it on to your assistant if you want. Or just say you are busy, but you don't accept that case. But if you find that I am standing near the head of that patient, that means that patient will definitely survive. You give any medicine, he will survive. And so then this young doctor said, okay, let me give it a try and see. So then next day he goes to the hospital. They found this one case where everyone had given up hope. All the specialists said, no chances. It's a matter of hours or a day or two at the most. Then this young doctor goes and he finds Yama is standing near the head of that patient. And he said, I'll make him all right. And they said, you've gone fool, look at the tests and everything. He said, no, I'll do it all right. So he gave some medication and that patient survived. You can imagine how grateful, how happy that person's family must have been. That here this person was about to die and this young doctor saved his life. And then of course, in a day and a days after that, if he found any time Yama was standing near the feet, he would somehow say, no, I'm too busy, I can't do it, etc. With the result that he built up a very great reputation, that if this doctor takes your case, takes you as the patient, you will definitely be fine. And so he became very well known. He built up a huge practice. Some 20 years passed this way. And after 20 years, he had already become a very well-known doctor and very, very busy throughout the day. And so, so now, fast forward to 20 years later. So one day he had a very busy time at the hospital, extremely tired when he returned home. Then he had a nice dinner and then he goes to sleep. Around midnight, he hears a sound in his room. So he switches on the lamp next to his bed and he found Yama standing near his own feet. Now, so suppose this is, I hope it doesn't open.
Yeah.
Okay. So suppose these are his feet, okay? And the doctor is sleeping in his bed. It's 12 midnight, he hears a sound, he switches on the light, he finds Yama standing near his feet. And he knows what that means. So in that horizontal position, he turns this way. Horizontal, he doesn't get up from the bed in that horizontal position. Now Yama, who's standing here, runs around the bed to stand here. As soon as Yama comes here, he again goes this way. Again, keeps on going this way. And Yama keeps on running around the bed. This goes on for about 45 minutes until Yama feels so dizzy. He says, I can't take it, I can't run. So he tells his doctor, okay, stop like going round and round like this. And he said, okay, I'm not going to take you. But he said, I am puzzled. This is humanly impossible. Try doing that tonight when you go to your bed, whether in that horizontal position where you can go this way. So Yama said, it's impossible. How did you do it? I don't think even a yoga practitioner would be able to do that. How did you do it? Then this young person said, he said, 20 years ago, you gave me this special boon, how I will get to see you at the feet of the patient and then the patient will die and so on. He said, that was very helpful. It helped build my career. But 20 years ago, I also realized that one day will come, you will be standing at my own feet. So since 20 years, every day before going to work, for half an hour I've been practicing this. That's important. I mean, it's a funny story in many ways. But just think about the foresight and faresight that this young man had. That even in his prime of youth, with this special blessing, when any one of us would be busy building up our careers and thinking death is a very far off event, he knew that one day will come and I need to start preparing for it right away. Can't wait. You know, sometimes people say, oh, take life as it comes. It like sounds like a very wonderful thing. It's a terrible thing. Because if life takes us by surprise, we wouldn't know what to do. We know that when we are prepared for anything, we are able to deal with that thing in a very intelligent way, in a smart way. And so death, it'll come. But preparing for that death, we don't want it to come soon. I'm not saying we right away find a way to die. Whether we find it or not, death will find us. But I must start preparing for it right now. That just like when we lie down in bed to go to sleep, we don't know the exact moment sleep comes. But what is sleep? That this world that we are aware of, that I'm lying in my bed, turning and twisting, hoping that sleep will come, and then suddenly, none of us know unless you have a sleep app and you see next morning when did you exactly fall asleep. Because otherwise, without the help of an app, while you are trying to sleep, no one knows the exact moment we pass from the waking state to the deep sleep state. None of us knows that. But it happens. And what does sleep mean? That this world, with all its meaning, our relationships, our connections with people, places, things, everything just gets wiped off in a moment. When we are in a dream world, we don't even know that we have left this other world behind. That becomes our new world. So all of the investment of time and energy we are doing into this world, this will be wiped off, not just in sleep. At the time of death, it will be wiped off completely, without notice. We won't even know about it. So how much should I invest in this world? Swami Brahmananda, that the masterpiece, Eternal Companion, he says, give your mind to the world and it will destroy it. Give your mind to God and it becomes full. Our body and mind is all that we have. We don't have anything. We just came into this life with the body and mind. But how we employ that body and mind, where the physical and mental energies have to go, that's the kind of choice we have. Where do I want to invest it? And that's what I said in the beginning about investment strategy. So one final thought, and I close. I think I've already, maybe there isn't any time for it. I was thinking a lot of discussion and all of that. I'm sorry, just I got carried away by this thought of that. So here is this one kind of a thought experiment. Okay? If God appears before someone, like a great devotee, God appears before that person and says, you're going to die after 7 days. Exactly after 7 days, you're going to die. And of course, then God's vision goes away. So now here is this person, God has come and told him, you're going to die. What are the options before this person? I mean, there is really nothing. Which doctors will you go to? Because it's not like it's a chance. It's a definitive statement. You're going to die. So maybe for a first day or two, the mind will be sad, desolate, but then you just accept it because there is no way of getting out of it. So these last 3-4 days that remain, what would be the state of mind of that person? If we are given a choice and said, how do you see the last day of your life to be? How do you want your last moments be like? And I imagine most of us will say, I want to go without any hurt or feeling. I don't want to hurt anyone or I don't want to make enemies. I just want to kind of be at peace. Peace inside, peace with the world. I want people I love around me. I bless them, they bless me, and I want to go in that kind of a ideal situation. So this person now, who knows that I'm going to die after 7 days, has time to say, okay, if anyone were to go and tell the person, hey, can you give this to me? I said, no, this is mine, I can't give it to you. I won't say that, because like I know whether I like it or not, I have to leave everything behind. When I came into this world, I came with nothing. When I go with nothing. All the clinging and appropriation that we do is the things that are in the middle, sandwiched between birth and death. And so, in those last 3 or 4 days, this person, that would be probably the best days of his life. Because he'll be loving, kind, won't hurt anybody, won't be nasty to anybody, would just have blessing for everyone. Not just human beings, animals, trees, garden. His whole outlook on life will change. Now think about our situation. At least this person was lucky, because God told him you're going to die after 7 days. Can any of us say surely that, oh, I have 7 days? We don't know. We don't know whether we have just few minutes, few hours, few days, few weeks. We don't know. Which really means, theoretically, any of us can die anytime. Now, what a spiritual seeker has to look in the heart and say, do I want to be prepared for that or not? Do I want to be taken by surprise, or do I want to be ready for it? And that's what is meant by the teachings of not simply, I just referred to this incident from Swami Vivekananda, but you look at the teachings of the Buddha, teachings of all of these great ones, in one way or the other, some of these great Sufi saints, in one way or the other, the idea is keep the thought, the hour of death before your mind. We will see, if you do it in a positive, constructive, healthy sort of way, we will understand what life means only when we understand what death is. To understand life without trying to understand death is impossible. Life and death are the obverse and reverse of the same coin. If we want to live well, we must know how to die well. And that preparation has to begin. The kind of insight that that young medical graduate had, that's the kind of an insight every spiritual seeker needs to have. So, my prayers to Sri Ramakrishna, Holy Mother, Swamiji, and all the great enlightened ones of the past, the present, and the future, that may through their infinite grace, may we all have that light within us, so that we don't run away from the inevitable realities of this life, that we are able to face them boldly, with wisdom, with skill, with strength, and with true surrender, because we become strong only in the strength of God. Just as a little baby never feels afraid when the baby is in the arms of her mother. And if the children of Holy Mother recognize that no matter where we are, whether we remember Holy Mother or not, she never forgets us, that we are always in her arms. Remembering that, we will not be able to run away from any challenge. We can face anything. So just let us all try to hold on to Holy Mother, to Thakur, to Swamiji, to any of these great pillars of our life, and we'll be able to march ahead with boldness and skill. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om.
Any question? No question. Good.
Swami, I have a question.
Yes, please go ahead.
Swami, you spoke about death, and I've heard it said that that death is coming of the mother, and I've also Swami Vivekananda's poem, "He who hugs the form of death, to him the mother comes." Could you explain what that means?
Well, I think that there's a lot that can be said about it, but I would say simply this, that the real death is the death of the ego. And so when the physical death, of course, that can occur and people die every second, hundreds of people are dying in the world every day. But as we know, if one birth is possible, then a second birth is possible also. There is no proof for rebirth, just as there is no proof for one birth, but we just say that if one life is possible, then another life is possible as well. But death as a coming of the mother would only be if the death of my ego. Because when the ego is the only one that stands as an obstacle between me and the presence of the mother, presence of the divine. If the ego goes away, that's when the mother comes. And that's the kind of death we want. Thank you.
Pranam Swamiji, I have a question. Can you hear me?
I
Yes,
can hear you.
yes.
Don't see you, but I can hear you.
Yeah. Okay. Swamiji, Swami Chandrasekharji read about from the Gospel before the talk regarding devotion to God, lying path of devotion. Now, I am a little bit confused because whenever I see a lot of our monks that they're giving talks on non-dual Brahma, books like Vedanta Sara or other non-dual books that teach. So can you listen to them as well as follow a devotional path? Does when you listen to that, don't you go away from the path of devotion, or can you be both?
Well, there is only one path, and I think that if we hold on to that one path, then this apparent contradiction that appears between knowledge and devotion will go away. I think all we need is an earnestness, a single minded focus to know the truth in whichever form that truth might take. Then one can be devoted to that truth. One can love that infinite reality. I mean, people love science, people love art, and science doesn't have any form, but so it's possible to love the formless. And if bhakti is seen as love, then we don't have to kind of pigeonhole love with simply something that has a form and this non-dual Brahman as jnana. I think that kind of compartmentalization does not help in spiritual life.
Okay. Also, I read that Sri Ramakrishna, they said, was inside him, he was non-dual, but outside he was a devotee of, devotee of Ma Kali. Or he sounded more like, he seemed more like following the path of devotion, but inside he was non-dual. So I've read this somewhere, but I could not follow what it really means. I've read this, I think, in one of the books.
I mean, it's one way to understand that is sometimes one of the other ways spiritual life manifests outwardly. We trying to kind of stereotype people and think, oh, this person is like this, but we don't know. Human beings are complex, and it's not as if we are able to showcase everything that is going in our heads through our appearance or through the way we look and speak. And so people who see us and judge us are doing it from a relatively incomplete data. And therefore, and that's why this inside and outside distinction seems to become relevant then.
Okay, thank you,
Just,
Swami.
Yeah.
now, just I would like to say something. As Swami Vivekananda said, that we have hands, we have head, and we have heart. By hand we work, and by head we think, and by heart we feel. So, what is our life? Is it compartmentalized? We have all these things, and also we can concentrate our mind. So, it cannot be compartmentalized. So, all the avenues should be used. If we don't use, say, if we stop using our hands, so it is called atavism, then I cannot work after certain years. People put their hand like this for holding like this for long, then they cannot move it. Similarly, if we don't think, paths are there, whatever one chooses. And Swamiji always emphasized to integrate all these things. Because we have all these avenues. We feel, we have to love. We have hands, we have to work. That's why we work in the Karma Yoga. And we have a head to think. Why should not I think that how this world was created? So this is one answer. The second is, our centers promote all paths. Because if you go to a shopping mall, everything will be available. Now it is up to you, whatever you choose. But if we stop cultivating knowledge, gradually what happens? It deteriorates. Even Swamiji promoted study of scriptures in our Math and Mission, so that when it is cultivated, it gives a strong base to cultivate, even to form our spiritual life. So that is why we have various types of, it's a shopping mall. So you follow whatever you like. Okay, is it contradictory? No, it is not contradictory. We always disclaim. We put disclaimer that this is good because we have to cultivate knowledge. This is also, bhakti also is good because we want to love. So up to you, whatever you like. Even a gospel of Sri Ramakrishna, you'll find in the same what I have read, there also you'll find he is telling everything. It's not that he compartmentalized. So this is one thing. And what is the second question? What was your second question?
I read somewhere that Guru Maharaj was outwardly a
Okay.
bhakta,
Okay,
but
let us think
inwardly
of, okay,
was
just I got it.
white.
Now,
He was a
correct. Now think about yourself. Are you with form or without form? You think
form.
that your body, it is with form.
Yeah.
And what form your mind has? What form your intellect has? And what form your real self has? So you yourself is also with form and without form. So Sri Ramakrishna also like that. So he is our ideal. In him we find expression of that highest ideal. So within himself he is devotee. But even read Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna. whatever he says, he gives example, 3, 4, 5 examples. That means expression of knowledge. You cannot beat Sri Ramakrishna in examples. And Swamiji, though he preached Advaita here most of the time, because he knew that first one should be attracted to this. And when one is attracted to this, then only people will love. See, if I say, oh, this sweet is very good, so that should be corroborated with taste. So first we should know about something, then we try to love. That's why we read Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna. Why? To learn the teaching of Sri Ramakrishna. So learning is integrated with our love. It's not separate. And we are also integrated with form, without form, and even if we don't know what our real nature is. So if this is our case, so you can understand what is Sri Ramakrishna. Ananta Bhavamay. Sri Ramakrishna was all encompassing. Read Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna. His ideas with form, without form, and we do not know how many things are there. Ananta Bhavamay, infinite possibility, and so many moods Sri Ramakrishna had. So it's not only one thing. And leave alone Sri Ramakrishna. What about you? Or what about ourselves? If we analyze ourselves, then you'll see that it's not, whatever we think, it's not like that. Rather, it's integrated whole. Thank you.
Thank you.
I would think just follow your heart. Swami Vivekananda says, when there is a conflict between head and heart, always follow your heart. So there is not just any one way to do it. There are infinite possibilities. The spiritual path itself is a huge thing. And we don't have to follow all the 100 paths. But follow the path that comes naturally to you, which resonates with your head and heart, which is meaningful to you. And once you choose the path, put your whole heart and soul into it. That's the way to success. Swami Vivekananda's one very well-known quote is, take up one idea, think of that, dream of that, and leave every other idea alone. That's the way to success. There's one other place Swamiji says, I hope I remember that now. It is, yes. So this is his quote. He says, live for an ideal, and that one ideal alone. Let it be so grand, so great, that there may be nothing else left in the mind. No time for anything else, no place for anything else. When we are consumed by that, and we see that in the life of Thakur himself, when he wanted to have the vision of Mother, there was nothing else. It was not just like, I'm going to think of Mother 15 minutes in the morning and 15 minutes in the evening, then I have a lot of other things to attend to. But it just consumed him. That's all that he wanted. And that's how he had the vision of Mother. And in Holy Mother's conversation, one place she says, these Vedic rishis and sages, They meditated for decades and centuries. And then nowadays we just do a little 108 japa in the morning, 108 in the evening, and say, oh, nothing is happening. So we just, again, it just goes back to what I began with, or how much are we investing into it, and what kind of a return we are expecting out of it.
Swami, what about if you would made that same equation, but they just chosen women and gold, money? It's all over the world now. They do the same thing, the same tactics, the same energy, and they put everything into it. Or maybe it's just as simple
Sure.
as I want to get that car, so I'm going to save all the money. The family goes
Yeah, it'll work.
nowhere and they get their car. Well, it works. This is the thing,
It,
works.
it absolutely, Swami Akhandananda.
You're saying, but they do that because it works, and they get a feeling very rewarded for that.
Yeah, Swami Akhandananda said once, he said, if you want something, you will get it. And that's the law of life. It could be the most worldly thing. I'm not just thinking about God or anything. Anything you want. It could be a very material thing. If you really want it badly, madly, you will get it. It may not come according to our timetable, but sooner or later it will come. So Swami Akhandananda said, if you want something, you will get it. The next thing he said is, if you don't want anything, you will get everything. That's the difficult part. If I can touch my heart and say, I don't want anything, that moment, everything will come. But that's so difficult. Easy to say, but actually to kind of live that. It's the same thing. I mean, people want to be happy. And we think, oh, only after Nirvikalpa Samadhi I'll get that happiness. And yes, that is the most supreme happiness that we will get. But it is possible even now, even before any Samadhi, to become happy. There is this saying in the Bhagavata, it says, Ashahi paramam dukkham, nairashyam paramam sukham, which simply means living with expectation is a profound sorrow, a profound suffering. Living without expectation is a profound joy. So all that we can do, all that we can ask ourselves, can I let go of any of the expectations I have in life? Expectations from my friends, from my family, from the government, from the world. Let me not expect anything from anyone. I can be happy right now, right here, this very moment. The only tricky part is we think that if I don't expect it, I will not get it. But actually, there is no connection between what we expect and what we get. What we are going to get, we are going to get, whether you expect it or not. If it's going to be a very hot, humid day, whether you expect it or not, whether you want it or not, it's going to be a hot, humid day. My expectation doesn't change the outcome. So if there is any useless activity in the world, the most useless activity, it's a waste of time and energy, is expecting. And if we can stop expecting, recognizing what is going to come to me will come to me. What is not going to come to me will not come to me even if I move heaven and earth to get it. Let me just do what is right. Let me do what is good. Let me try to remember God, and let me march through life in this way and not expect anything from anyone. So the recipe for happiness is actually not that complicated if we just think about it a little bit.
Now what mother said, there are many paths and many attractions to know this and that, what should be done. So Sri Ramakrishna gave an instruction, Guru Bhakya Vishwas, faith in the words of Guru. Whatever your Guru said, follow that. So then there is no confusion. So all other things are there. You can absorb some ideas, but whatever instructions that you received from your Guru, that's your final instruction. And it was Swami Asheshananji. Swami Asheshananji once approached Sharadananji Maharaj. Maharaj, I have a question. What is that? So he said, mother gave me Now when you give mantra or you instruct, this is number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4, this is to be done. But mother gave me only mantra. Please give me some instruction, what to be done first, second, third, fourth, fifth. Then Sharadanji scolded him. You are a first class fool. What mother gave you, that's the final word. So this is Guru Bhakya Vishas. So that's very important. Sometimes we are confused, yes. But whatever your Guru said, that's the final word. So, yes, sir. You, Amma.
Hmm. That's the only way. That's the only. I mean, and even Vairagya, it's not as if we have any option. It's whether we like it or not, we have to leave everything behind anyway. So, better to do it willingly than kind of kicking and screaming, as they say. Nature is going to take out everything from us. No matter how much we cling and clinch, nature is going to take away. So rather than that, just say, okay, take it. Yeah.
Even
Nanya
when,
pantha vidyate ayanaya. There's no
even-
other way.
even when we have money, where is it lying? In bank, you have only a passbook. Oh, this much I have money, $1 million. But it's all in bank. So even when whatever we have today, it's not in our hands.
Hmm? No, you work hard to realize God. No. My point is, whatever you are doing is doing in order to realize God. You keep on doing it because why would the expectation help or anyway? I mean, it's like this. Once you now, for instance, decide to drive from here to Seattle, and so you decide, okay, this is the road I'm going to take, this is the route I'm going to follow. And then you just have to be on the road, drive carefully, and you'll reach Seattle. It's not necessary from every moment to be expecting, I hope I reach Seattle, I hope I reach Seattle. It's not necessary, right? So that's why expectation is, I wish that expectation didn't exist. It just ruins life, I think, in some
Yeah,
way.
correct. Now,
Yeah.
one thing.
Yeah.
Say, Sri Ramakrishna said, hinche shak, hinche green is not with greens. Says saccharin is not sugar. Like that. So some desire to seek God is not under that category. Yes, Paul.
Not expectation. I was just thinking about your medical doctor story. Like if you one goes to medical school, you kind of are expecting in your own study that you will become a doctor. You know what I mean? Like
Mhm.
that you need that kind of goal, I guess, in a way.
Sure.
But then again, you may not. You may after you see his body, you're like, oh God, this is too much. I can't handle it, and you realize.
No, I think we have to kind of narrow down the way in which I'm using the word expectation. I think motivation and expectation are two different things. There is in Sanskrit they say, prayojanam anuddishya na mandopi pravartate. That without motivation, even a stupid person doesn't do anything unless there is something motivates that person. So yes, if I go to medical school, I want to make that my career. That's what motivates me to do it. Now that's good. But then all that I need to do after going to school is work hard, do whatever needs to be done. And depending on how I have worked hard, the results will come. Now whether I expect it or not doesn't change it doesn't depend on my expectation, it depends on the work and hard that I put in. That's why expectation, bad idea.
Like a football game. You go in 100% and you do 100% and then you satisfy what you waited to do.
Yeah, don't they say better to have loved and lost than never to have loved at all? And so, yeah, I mean, you see, if I give my best shot at something, even if I don't succeed, at least I have the satisfaction I did my best. But if I don't do that, sometimes it can happen when there is very little time left in life. And whether we like it or not, we do tend to look back and then say, oh, if only I had done that. That was a stupid thing I did. I should have, rather than wasting my time doing this, I could have done something else. Now, that kind of a regret is extremely painful because the time that is gone will never come back. But even if I'm not successful, if I have given my best shot, none of us is perfect. But with all of our imperfections, if we are totally sincere, Swami Vivekananda used the phrase sincere to the backbone, this total sincerity, and I give out the best I can in spite of my limitations, then whenever that moment comes, I can look back and say, I did my best. I couldn't have done better than what I did because at that moment, that was my best. That satisfaction is quite a lot. And what Sri Ramakrishna and Holy Mother show is that they know, of course, we are not perfect. At no point, any of us are going to realize God through our effort. I can tell you that. That's a guarantee. Our efforts are never going to be enough. Also, God realization is not the result of any effort. There is a basic principle in the Vedas which says, Yat kritakam tad anityam. Whatever is the result of any action, that result is going to be temporary. If we want that our spiritual freedom has to be permanent, then it's not going to be the result of any action. No amount of japa, no amount of meditation is going to be enough. But what it does is I exhaust in one way. One of our Swamis used to say, you remember the story of the bird sitting on the mast, that how that bird flew to the east, flew to the west, all the directions, found no land, just sat on the mast, and ultimately the ship took him to the port. All of our spiritual practices and our struggles are just to tire our wings. Once our wings are tired, we say, I can't do anything more. I'm just going to sit, hold on to mother's feet, and then mother will take me. But as long as that ego is there, that sense of agency is strong, as long as I feel, no, I can do something, then mother said, okay, do it. And then we try and say, oh, I'm exhausted. I tried my best. I can't do anything. And mother says, just go to sleep. In the morning, I'll wake you up and you'll be fine.
That's it. And
Yeah, I think you have taken a wrong part of that story. I mean, any kind of an example or a story has a certain message to give. So that story is not about that the doctor was trying to avoid death. The story is about how 20 years earlier he had that foresight and farsight to prepare for what would be that eventuality. Whether you embrace it or not, death is going to embrace us. You say, yeah. Again, we have no choice. We have to, whether we like it or not, we have to accept it. The thing is, can I be prepared for it whenever it occurs? The idea is not that I want to die as soon as possible. We don't know when it will come. But whenever it happens, I should be in a better position to welcome it. Because, as I said, we have no choice in the matter. Either when death comes, I say, hey, come on, let's go. Or I just say, no, and the death is going to pull me and push me and drag me. Which way would I like to go? That's the question.
Maybe I have something. So there's a line from your book that I really like. It says, "What we gain from practice is ours forever. What we gain from reading is ours only as long as we remember it." So this was reminded me of two things. One, Swami Tyagananda used to tell us that whatever progress we make is a deposit in the bank account. And I just wanted to share that since we used the financial example.
Hmm.
And then also you talked in the beginning of kind of like the investment management and two baskets. And this idea of practice is like really the only true way to make progress. So wouldn't it be ideally the two baskets become one basket because we're treating our whole life as divine? Whether I'm at the office or at the temple.
Ideally, that's how it should be. I mean, the goal of life is to lead an undivided life. And as long as we have these distinctions, this is my secular responsibility, this is my spiritual thing, eventually the two have to come together. In some ways, and worldly people are, again, none of us can generalize, people are always different, but sometimes I have seen that worldly, materialistic people are sometimes more authentic than spiritual people. Because a worldly person is worldly everywhere. Even if that worldly person goes to a temple, that person will pray and do everything in a worldly way. There is authenticity, there is this sameness. But that sometimes when we turn to religious life or spiritual life, we are all very holy and pious when we go to a place of worship, and then we kind of as if we put on a different mask when we go to our workplace or dealing with the world, and then we say, oh, if you have to live in the world, we have to do what the Romans do, and people have justifications that you, but that's the problem. So if I see myself as a spiritual person, then I'm spiritual not only when I'm doing meditation and prayer and study, not only when I visit a temple, but I'm a spiritual, I should be able to be a spiritual person even when I'm on Wall Street, even when I'm marketing, or when I'm shopping, when I'm gardening, no matter what I'm doing. Just like wherever I am, now right now my identity is a human being. No matter what work I do it as a human being. So if I'm a spiritual person, why does my spirituality have to remain limited to a certain place at a certain time of the day? And so yes, I agree with you that eventually these two baskets have to become one. And that's the hallmark of authenticity, that whatever I am that everywhere all the time. Yeah.
Anyone? Okay. So we say our prayer. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Tat Sat. Sri Ramakrishna Arpanamastu. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you, Maharaj.
Pranam Maharaj.
Namaskar.
Oh, to look there.
Pranam.